Namaskar and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I've been one of those few lucky ones who's had a privileged life, I can say. I was born and brought up in Mumbai. My father is a filmmaker. My parents tell me that I've always had this compassionate streak, this fierce streak of wanting to do something. Few incidents that my dad tells me. I was just recently on a show which did a full, story on my life, and my dad was invited and he was asked to say a few things about me, and this is the incident that he narrates to everyone right from the beginning. Is that he fetched me one day from school, and I was really very, very young, must have been 6, 7, 8, around that age. He had to stop en route to home at a garage. He wanted to consult the mechanic about a few problems in the car. And I was seated next to him, alongside him, and he got out of the car and he was busy talking to the mechanic. And mid-conversation, suddenly the mechanic turns around and tells him, sir. So he says, kya? Another guy comes up and says, sir, wo shayad road pe wo jo patthar maar rahi hai, wo aapki beti hai na? So he said that, I'll say that in English. So another guy came up to my dad and said, sir, I think that's your daughter on the street, right? With the stones in the hand. And so my dad turned around and looked. He said, oh, yeah, okay, she is. And he ran up to me, and I was standing on the road. I had picked up a few stones, pebbles in my hands, and I was pelting a few boys who were there, who were about my age group, maybe 8 or 9 or 10. And I was furiously pelting the stones at them. And my dad came in the middle and said, stop, stop, what's happening? And those guys were ducking and running and, doing stuff. And I said, Papa, these boys were pelting this injured crow with stones, and the poor thing's already broken his wing, he's injured. And these guys, so I just want to teach them a lesson as to see how it feels. So when he walked up to me, I was busy screaming in Hindi, of course. Dekha, abhi kaisa lagta hai? Ye lo. And he was like, you got to calm down. You can't do these things. But anyway, we picked up the injured crow. We brought him home. We nursed him back to health. So that, I think, was there always in me. Another very important lesson that I learned very early in life. Another incident. I started kindergarten, and I was about 5.5, 6. At that time, we went around that age. And in those days, I just brought about a little kitten home. And I was very, very pleased to learn. In school, in my class, the teacher had taught us the eating habits of animals. So that day, I learned cat eat fish. So that was in my mind, that cats eat fish. I come back home. I see this little kitten who's following me around, very hungry, and her mews are just reaching my heart. And I pick her up, and I take her to the fish tank, and I put her in the fish bowl. I have put that kitten in the fish tank, and I go like, kitty, kitty, here, eat fish. That is when I learned the difference between a helping hand and killing with kindness. So this has been a bit of my growing up years, and coming to a little ahead, my school. When I was in school, I was probably not as strong enough as probably you see me now standing here doing a talk in front of you. I was an introvert. And the reasons being that I was a very, very fat, plump child. I was constantly teased, I was constantly bullied, I was constantly ragged. I was called the fattest girl in class. Even if I knew the correct answer, I'd be scared to put up my hand because I was scared that the attention would come to me. And the mean girls, oh yes, we had mean girls in the class. So I was this constantly bullied, ragged, teased child. And I think that was a defining factor in my life, also to stand up for fairness, for justice. And I've always rooted for the underdog. These were my formative years. This definitely brought me into a shell, but somewhere along, I did come out of it soon enough. Coming back to when I started acting. I started acting very young, at 16 and a half, straight out of school in my FIJC before I started my college. So my exams of my FIJC were given when I was shooting the songs of Patthar Ke Phool and I was studying along with. In my growing up years, till the time I reached college, I had already been helping my parents. My parents are my role models. They still belong to that very soon going to be extinct tribe of believing that feed the others first and feed yourself. And I think somewhere I've imbibed that from them. My mother always helped orphanages. I always accompanied her. And even when I was small, we used to see these little baby girls being abandoned. I used to help this orphanage in Mud Island. And once, I clearly remember there was these fishermen folk in Mud Island who brought this small baby along, which my mother and me had the honor of naming the child. And I remember we called her Bubbles. And this child was found buried under the sand. And who had left her, where, what, nobody knew. And this child was brought to the orphanage, and my mom and me happened to be there that day. And my first instinct, as usual, was, Mama, can we take this child home? That time, again, I must have been 13, 14, and obviously not having the consent. You can't just pick up a child and bring it home. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of things to be done. And that remains somewhere in me, that I do want to make a difference to someone's life. I continued all this work. I continued helping this orphanage throughout. And I remember being catapulted into an actress suddenly. So from this ugly duckling thing, there happened a metamorphosis, I don't know where, and suddenly I was an actress, in which it took me a long time to fathom myself, because I would still look at myself in the mirror and see myself as a fat 13-year-old and say, like, really? These people want my autograph? And it would come as a surprise, and a pleasant surprise to me, and I would again boost myself up. But the need, the compelling need to do things for people had not changed at all. In fact, when that fame came to me, I felt there are a lot more ways now that I can channelize this and make things happen, more than probably what I could have when I was younger. I am not the kind of person, even in those days, who talks about, oh, I did this and I did that. In fact, when they asked me to do my introduction, I said, you know, there's a very thin line here. You're almost asking me to stand there and say, oh, I achieved this and I achieved that. I can't do it. Even in those days, in my first year, when I first signed Patthar Ke Phool, that was my first film, I was very quiet about the things that I would do. Even from school, like I said, it used to be really upsetting for me in my later years to go to school because I didn't want to be targeted in class. I didn't want to be teased. I would come back upset. But my high points used to be spending the weekends at the Mud Island orphanage with all the kids. And that would bring about a certain joy in me, which is uncomparable. You cannot compare that. It's unconditional. And that is what is a feeling that I hung on to and always boosted me and drove me through whatever crisis I ever faced in life. I wish I could tell you all some, super incidences or some inspirational stories from the films that I did in the 90s that were a turning point in my life, that inspired me to do some more work. But unfortunately, no. Because in my films in the 90s, I played only one role, the rich, spoiled brat of an equally rich, spoiled father who was always gunning for the poor hero who was from poor colony. So there's nothing more that I could do about it. But yes, personally, I faced a lot of challenges, and I overcame those challenges. There was a period of time in my life where I was going through a huge personal heartbreak. I had given up my career, I had given up my profession. It was a personal mess. I was in a mess, and I thought I was on square one. I had to start all over again. But what truly inspires me to continue going are very simple things in life if you just look around you, and things that will motivate you. It was a very, very rainy night, and as usual, I was in my car listening to all those heartbroken Kishore Da songs and Asha ji's heartbroken, Lata ji's heartbroken songs, and sobbing away and driving myself. I used to love to drive. In those days, one could drive. It was not bumper to bumper, and it was not chaotic. And I was going for this long drive. I was passing through this road, and there was a settlement of slums on the side. And it was pouring buckets like it almost did this evening. And I was driving through in my own, listening to the songs and, thinking that I'm that character and my heart is broken and my life is over and everything is gone, it's finished. And the traffic suddenly slowed down because it rained so much and the cars all slowed down in front of me. And I started looking into the left. In one hut, there was a man beating up a woman with the child crying inside. I drove on. In the second hut, there were 3 naked children with the mother trying to frantically put plastic over the roof to give those 3 children just a dry roof. In the 4th hut, frantically, one mother was trying to cook dal and keep the fire on because the rain was just completely soaking up everything that was inside. Her children probably were hungry. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, stop. I am ashamed at you. I'm ashamed at myself. Look at you. You've got everything. You've got this car, you've got your hands, you've got your feet, you've got a roof over your head, you've got loving parents. You're privileged. And what am I crying about? Oh, I think my life is zero. No, it isn't. While these people not having anything still have the motivation to move on and do something. So is it that selfish need in oneself to look at yourself and say your life is all going down the dumps, while look at the person next to you? It's that old cliched story of, oh, I lost my shoes till I saw the person with no feet. But believe me, that can kick you into action. That can actually shake you. And that incident was the turning around my life. I threw myself into a lot more work that I could have done. In those very days, like in the introduction, it was read out, but he did not say it clearly. Where I live, below there was another colony where there were these small rooms, and there was an orphanage run by some ladies, and there were about 30 girls, and the landlord kicked them out overnight. That lady came and rang my doorbell at 1 in the night and said, I just don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. And I said, don't worry about it. Go back, sleep, we'll decide in the morning. I thought all night that these 30 girls have nowhere to go. In the morning, with their bags, with all their stuff, with all their staff, all the 30 girls moved into my house. I did not think twice. I was above 21. I did not need anyone's consent. I did not need anything. All I needed to do was give a roof over these girls' head, and nothing was being taken away from me, but everything had been taken away from them. And those girls, little girls who are grown up now, still write these beautiful cards to me and say, you did not give us a roof, but you gave us a Taj Mahal. And those are memories that make me feel that this is unconditional love. And I'm loved all over again. And this is the need. Maybe it's a need. It's a gratifying need within yourself that makes you want to do these things. But these are little things that you just have to look around you and you'll find something to do. Okay, maybe I had, later on in life, I was not, you would say, okay, how can the common man help? And we don't have the power to do these things. But everyone can help in their own little ways. Ronald Reagan once said that we cannot help everyone, but everyone can help someone. And that someone is all that you have to do is find. And they are all around you. You can help people in every little way that you can. How many of us, a lot of us over here look touchwood, privileged and look like they can do something. It's your salary. Just remove $100 a month and keep it aside. You can sponsor a child's meal for a month and it doesn't affect you. You can help in many ways. I used later on a lot of my fame and my success. And I always say that I think it's every celebrity's moral responsibility, every citizen's moral responsibility to do around you what you can and how you can is what should come to you very easily. Because the minute there's a will to do something and it's within you to do it, you just find a way. I was 21 and I adopted 2 girls. That time nobody had heard of single mothers. The whole concept was very alien. A lot of aunties came up to me and said, "Ab tumse kaun shaadi karega?" I actually heard that. Who's going to marry you? You come with so much baggage. You already have 2 girls now to look after. But that didn't deter me because for me, that thought never crossed my mind. For me, there were these 2 little girls who needed a better life and I could give them because God had given me that much to channelize it in such a way that I can make a difference to someone. And that is where I ask that why do we only wait as even normal people to make a difference in someone's life? Why do we make, it's always pushed on to the other person. No, okay, the politicians will handle it. Okay, the bureaucrats will handle it. It's their job to do it. No, it's not. I think it's our social responsibility to see and make a difference in this society of ours, which is ours. Today it's not you, today it's not you, it's somebody else who's in trouble, but you can. And that's how you start the chain of kindness. That's how you start the chain of humanity. You do onto someone else does onto someone else, and that's how it moves on. The very fact that at 21, I did not think, yes, I was an adult and I could take the girls in. But I did not think, oh my God, that will become my responsibility to get them married, to do this, to see till where they are. And yes, they're still clinging to my pallu, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of my kids. And today they're achievers in life, and that makes me feel so wonderful. It's the best gift ever. You, on your own, as common people, us, as normal people, I started this much before I got my celebrity status. I used my celebrity status, yes. So these were the ways that I channelized things. For me, as a person, I would think of myself not, oh, I am a star, movie star, so I can make things happen. What I advise people like you and you, that please go ahead, think of which in various, numerous ways you can help. Maybe, your staff that works for you, tell them, okay, your children's education will be handled by me. Educate your girl. I'll see to it that till 10th standard, I'll pay for her education. Look around you, there's so many NGOs who are helping street children work. All these things can be brought together and be done. And all these things are our responsibility as well. Do not leave it for the next person to do so. So if it's you, me, or them, trust me, you all can make a difference. And let's go ahead and make a positive difference. I shall end this here. Thank you so much for listening to me.